Good evening. My name is Kiera Harris, and I have the pleasure of serving as Dillard University's Student Government Association President for the 2013-2014 school year. It is my honor to introduce to you tonight's guest speaker. Jamal-Harrison Bryant was born for this season, living on purpose and dying to empower a generation. A third-generation preacher with a 21st century approach, he is redefining ministry, defying odds, and revitalizing the movement. Bryant's energy and interests are evident with the success of his ministry at the Empowerment Temple Church. He has also launched the Empowerment Academy with a curriculum based on the arts. Jamal-Harrison Bryant served as an agent of social action and empowerment. Prior to pastoring, he served as the National Youth and College Director of the NAACP for 6 years, where he took a fresh wind of enthusiasm while leading almost 70,000 young people worldwide, nonviolent campaigns and social activism. Reverend Bryant has defeated the odds. He's like a rose growing in the street through concrete. He dropped out of high school, became a single parent, received his GED, and then earned a bachelor's degree from Morehouse College and a master's degree at Duke University. He then studied at Oxford University in Great Britain and earned a doctorate from the Graduate Theological Foundation. Bryant is a leader who has been able to relate to people from all walks of life. Jamal Bryant is the reverend of the hip-hop era. At the age of 17, he went with his family to serve as missionaries in Liberia, West Africa. And later, Bryant established the J.H.B. Hope Academy Elementary School to expose those young students to the use of technology. I am hyena happy and peacock proud to introduce to you the hip-hop Reverend Dr. Jamal-Harrison Bryant.
Nobody said the road would be easy, but I don't believe he's brought us this far to leave us now. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, you have already come. To the iconoclastic president of this incredible institution, my Morehouse brother, I extend flapping accolades. To the faculty and to the staff, and most importantly, to the greatest graduating class of Dillard University. We extend congratulations even in advance. It was, in fact, a harrowing night on April the 14th. At about 2:30 in the morning, 270 girls were awakened, while it is that their boarding school was bombarded by imposters who were dressed as if they were a part of the Nigerian military. They were given bad information that there was, in fact, a terrorist threat that would cause for them to move. And all of them were, in fact, hoarded on the trucks and vans and motorcycles. And they believed, my dear friends, that they were in the care of the Nigerian military. It wasn't until they were at speeds of 65 to 85 miles per hour that one of the girls realized that they were not in the hands of who they thought they were. And when they recognized that they were in the hands of Boko Haram, 40 girls jumped out of the truck, even at the risk of their life, and began running. In a recent article with the New York Times, they asked, how did you know you weren't in the hands of the military? They said, we didn't know until they began cheering that they had us. My dear friends, you really don't know who's with you until you see yourself going down. Everybody will celebrate while you're on top. But who's with you when you are between the devil in the deep blue sea. The day after the abduction, the Nigerian government falsely reported that only 100 girls had been abducted. The school and the family began to vehemently protest, saying that that information is inaccurate. And soon all of the world began to realize it was not 100, but there were estimates of 270. I'm not sure whether I told you or not, but that was on April the 14th. It took, in fact, almost 3 weeks before the world began to take notice. 3 weeks before anybody paid attention. And the critical question I need to ask you as thinking, critical thinkers, a month before 234 girls were abducted, there was in fact a Malaysian airplane. The Malaysian airplane went down and still has not been recovered. But the day after that plane went missing, intelligence agencies from 23 nations volunteered their services. Even up until this hour, America has yielded $72,000 a day to go find the Malaysian airplane. It is not mine to argue the value of those who were on that plane. I think that they have value. But the difference between the number that was on the plane and the number that was abducted from that school is just 5. Can you possibly suggest to me that those girls don't have the same value as the people who were on that plane? And so a hip-hop generation began a new approach of activism through social media, using a hashtag, Bring Back Our Girls. Until finally, just this afternoon, while you were trying on robes, boots finally got on the ground. The critical question you've got to ask yourself is not just what took America so long, but what happened to the Organization of African Unity? What happened to ECOWAS, which is a conglomerate of West African nations? Why did not Niger get involved? Why not Cameroon? Why not, in fact, Kenya? Why not troops from South Africa? Why did nobody do anything when 234 girls are being sold into a sex trade? 234 girls are being auctioned at $12 to $35 a piece. And the reason is, ladies and gentlemen, the same reason why I stand this evening is because you are part of the class of 2014, which regrettably is a part of a generation that refuses to be heroes. You are part of a generation that has settled for being celebrities. You want to be known, but you don't want to make a difference. This is the very first generation where you can, in fact, become known without having any talent. And so we have the likes of Kim Kardashian, known with no talent. Paris Hilton, known with no talent. We're raising a generation that wants to be celebrated, but doesn't want to know sacrifice. In order for you to be a hero, you have to, in fact, bear the weight of inconvenience. In order for you to be a hero, it is not how many people know you on Twitter or Facebook, how many people like your pictures on Instagram, but understanding the original gangster rap music was if I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or with a song, then my living will not be in vain. Isn't it amazing that Nigeria, my dear friends, has the 7th most populous nation in the world, but was waiting for Western intervention. The men who lived there did not bear arms and begin to move forward looking for this terrorist group. And the reason is because we are now raising men with no chest, who don't understand that in order for you to have a chest, you have to have a heart. And America is in fact bearing witness that the next level of attack is not for black men, it is now an attack against black women. Because the generation who is in fact abducting these 234 girls, abducted them because they were a threat, because they were in fact expanding their minds, because they were in fact aspiring to become lawyers and doctors and teachers. They've already wiped out a generation of black men with a prison pipeline. They figured out that we can destroy men if we get them to get gold teeth and nickel-plated brains. That we can, in fact, destroy a generation of men who wear high-top tennis shoes but have low ambition. We can destroy a generation of men who know all of the words of Lil Wayne and Sean Diddy Combs but still don't know how to conjugate verbs. We don't have heroes, we now have celebrities. To be compassionate does not make you heroic. To be nice does not make you heroic. But to be able to stand in the face of that which is not popular and make up in your mind that I'm going to do something even if everybody else doesn't understand. Nelson Mandela put it this way: it always looks impossible until it's done. You are called not to be known, you are called to be heroes. While it is that all of the hip-hop community is celebrating that Dr. Dre yesterday inked a deal for $3 billion from Apple, it was your president that held them into accountability. That if you had millions, you would give it to USC and not one dime to a black college. That is not a hero, that is a celebrity. Your job, ladies and gentlemen, after it is that you walk across the stage in the presence of our First Lady, there's got to be a higher aim for your life. There's got to be something greater that you're aspiring to. Your grandmothers who did not have your possibilities, didn't have your options, didn't want you to graduate from Dillard just so you could get red bottom shoes. They didn't want you to graduate from Dillard just so you could get a Louis bag. This is not just so that you could, in fact, hide behind a gated community. It is not just so that you could finally become a member of a country club. It was Fannie Lou Hamer that said, we should sing, we shall overcome, so that we could reach back and help somebody else come over. It's the charge for you to be a hero and not to be a celebrity. I am, in fact, amazed and amiss as a graduate of Morehouse College. I don't know much about the history of Dillard University, but I do know that I'm amazed that many of you are betwixt and bewildered as to why it is that you can't walk between two oak trees. And while it is that I was preparing to come, I got a text message from somebody who was not a Dillard graduate, but they wanted to, in fact, give caution, because they said to me to tell you, you're not sure what it means to walk through those trees. He didn't graduate in the class of 68 or the class of 43 or even the class of 79. He's a part of the distinguished class of 2,000 years ago. And he walked between three oak trees. And when he walked between three oak trees, it was his graduation. He was graduating from mortality to immortality. When he walked between three oak trees, he understood, I'm not here for style, I'm here for substance. When he walked between three oak trees, his own father didn't show up for his graduation. It was just his mother who was there. And he said, Mother, behold thy son, and son, behold thy mother. Nobody was there for his graduation. His graduation is going to be somewhat like yours, because on his graduation, the sun refused to shine. On his graduation, the press wasn't there to, in fact, give accolades for him, but he, in fact, stood between two thieves who didn't have the opportunities that he had. He was raised by a father who didn't even understand him, because he had to declare, "Don't you know I'm about my father's business?" Nobody was there to recruit him. Nobody was there to congratulate him. They, in fact, tore and, in fact, gambled for his robe. They gambled for his robe because they didn't think he was going to do much, didn't think he was going to amount to anything. But he understood that the certificate of my graduation is not in a piece of paper. It is, in fact, that I got blood in my hands. But not only do I have blood in my hands, but I've got blood oozing out of my side. And the people who were around him didn't think he was going to amount to anything, because after all, he was the first in his family to ever graduate. Nobody had ever walked across that celestial stage before. But when he walked across the stage, Paul began writing, "I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me." There's got to be more than you being a celebrity. There's got to be something about you being a servant. And many of you, I can tell, you got it twisted. You believe that you're here because you wrote a good essay. You think you're here because you did good in your GPA. But I came to tell you, on behalf of the people in the balcony and across the aisle from you, you're here not because you're so smart and halfway cute. You're here because somebody prayed for you. Somebody had you on their mind. Somebody took the time, and you ought to be glad that they prayed. The call on your life is not to be a celebrity, it's to be a servant. Dr. King said anybody can serve. All you have to do is have the mind of a servant. And ladies and gentlemen, it is with quaking trepidation that I stand before you today, knowing that I'm woefully unqualified. I shouldn't even have this hallowed opportunity. Because I stand before you, yes, as a graduate of Oxford University, of Duke University, Morehouse College, but all of that is my New Testament. In my Old Testament, I failed the 11th grade. And while it is, President Kimbrough, that when they kicked me out of the school, I had an exit interview with my guidance counselor. And the guidance counselor in a room with my parents, who were sulking and embarrassed. She said to my parents, "You might as well put him in Job Corps. Let him sign up for the military. He's not college material." But I had a praying mother who saw the best in me when everybody else saw the worst in me. And somehow, through the grace of God, I graduated from Morehouse College. My testimony is not about being a graduate of Morehouse College. My testimony is that the guidance counselor who didn't think I was going to be anything is now an usher at my church. Your call is not to be a celebrity. Your call is to be a servant. When I finished at Morehouse College, I went to Duke University. I went to Duke University, and I know that doesn't make you shout. I know that doesn't excite you, but 40 years before I went to Duke University, my grandfather was the head cook at Duke University. And they wouldn't let blacks on the campus of Duke University unless they were shucking peas or mowing the lawn or pouring lemonade and iced tea. So when I graduated from Duke University, I knew I wasn't there because of affirmative action. I wasn't there because of a set-aside. I was there because there was somebody who went before me, who had the opportunities that I never had. Your call, ladies and gentlemen, is not to be a celebrity. Your call is to be a servant. You're called to rescue somebody. You're here not because you were the smartest person in your class, but because God looked beyond all of your faults And he met you right dead at your knees. Your call is not to be a celebrity. Your call is to be a servant. In 1978, before many of you who are graduating were born, there was a company called Hanna-Barbera. And Hanna-Barbera was trying to consolidate their efforts because they had in fact expended too much capital. And expending too much capital in the entertainment, they had a show for Wonder Woman. They had a show for Superman, and they had a show for Batman. But because this is before technology, and it would take at least 90 days just for one episode, they made up in their minds that they would, in fact, for time and for finance, put all of them in one show. And they called that show Super Friends. And the problem with what it is that Nikki Giovanni calls ego tripping is that many of you see yourself as Wonder Woman. You see yourself as Superman. You see yourself as Batman. You see yourself as Thor or the Incredible Hulk. And the reality is you are not any of them. If we really did a diagnostic of who it is that you are not Superman, you are not Wonder Woman, but there's another character in the Super Friends, and that other character is named Robin. And Robin had no spectacular gift. He had no incredible anointing. All he knew is how to connect with the right people. And because he knew how to connect with the right people, he was able to stay in the house. But because we were a part of a generation that didn't know how to honor people with minimal gift, in 1987, they wrote Robin out of the Super Friends. And they substituted him with two unlikely candidates we had never heard of before. And the two unlikely candidates were the Wonder Twins. And the Wonder Twins had to have had some Pentecostal apostolic background, because they understood if two or three are touching and agreeing, there I'll be also. And whatever they spoke, it would begin to come to pass. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here because many of you don't even remember the Super Friends. I just turned 40, and so I understand there's a generational gap. Because in this audience is not just Motown, but Def Jam is sitting right across the aisle from you. We got two different generations in the same room. But while it is that I was growing up every Friday night at 9 o'clock, my favorite show used to be a show that is no longer air. It's called Miami Vice. And this show called Miami Vice had two characters named Crockett and Tubbs. Crockett and Tubbs would walk around with no socks on. Crockett and Tubbs somehow or another always found themselves in a convertible. And only if I did well did my mother allow me to stay up and watch Miami Vice. And on one particular Friday night while I'm watching Miami Vice, I'll never forget, Crockett and Tubbs' real identity was exposed. The Cuban drug lords were trying to figure out whether or not they were going to kill him. They had him in an abandoned warehouse, and they in fact tied him up, put a gouge in their mouth, had a gun to their head, and it's now 9:57. Those of you, ladies and gentlemen, who are familiar with television know at 9:57, the show is almost over. I'm sitting on the edge of my bed about to lose my mind, and my mother is telling me, turn the television off. It's time for you to go to bed. I said, I can't go to bed. I got to find out what's getting ready to happen to Crockett and Tubbs. She said, Jamal, you've got to go to bed. I said, just give me 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes and I'll be able to go to bed. And they, in fact, went to commercial. It is now 9:59. And Crockett and Tubbs are in an abandoned warehouse. They're tied up. They got a gouge to their mouth, and there's a gun to their head. And I'm trying to figure out, how is Crockett and Tubbs ever going to get out of this? And just before the show came off, ladies and gentlemen, 3 words came up. And the 3 words that came up were, to be continued. And that's all I wanted to tell you, is that where it is that you are right now, it is not the end. It is just to be continued. Be not weary in well-doing, for in reap's due season you will reap if you faint not, to be continued. He may not come when you want him to come, but he's an on-time God, is to be continued. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings as eagles, run and not get weary, walk and not faint. It's to be continued. And for all your haters, when you see them tomorrow, tell them, turn down for what?